I tell you, the intro just makes me smile and bob my head. But welcome to the GSD Golf Podcast. I'm your host, AT, and I'm not going to waste anyone's time today. We have a really action packed episode. I'm really excited about our guest. Every golfer, every amateur golfer's dream is to do what? Play the best courses in the world. And some of them St. Andrews, some of them Pinehurst. You can call and book a tee time. But Augusta National, that's not one you can call and just book a tee time and get a foursome and go play with your buddies. But we have a guy, Brandon from New Nine Golf, who's joining us on the GSD Golf Podcast, who is on a journey to play Augusta National. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me on. Love that intro music. It's getting me hype. I'm feeling it. Feels good.
Yeah, man, it makes you want to step in the tee box and crush one, right? Get it off to a fast start. But Brandon, this is a journey you started. According to your Instagram, you started about 20 days ago. But I'm sure it's not just it didn't just pop in your mind one night and you woke up the next day and said, "Hey, let me make this call."
Totally. Yeah. So I've been doing content creation for like the last 4 years. So trying to play Augusta has always been something that I've kind of put on the shelf while I've been doing other content creation stuff. And I really wanted to give it a test. So I thought I would test it on Instagram, test it on kind of short form content to see if the audience likes it, if it got traction, and kind of just see where I could get. So I started it. Yeah, technically my Instagram would say 20 days ago. I've now done 20 videos trying to play Augusta, but it's taken me probably about a month and a half, 2 months of like total planning and filming and trying to come up with stuff. So it's been longer than 20 days technically, but it like a lot has happened in the last 20 days. It's actually pretty crazy.
If you're cool, we'd love to walk the listeners and the viewers through kind of that journey. And that journey started with dare I say, a cold call to the pro shop. And I know it's probably not the pro shop, but
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. So I'm not naive enough to know that obviously you can't call to Augusta to book a tea time, but I thought it would be funny just to start that way. Like we might as well just go straight to the source and call Augusta National. So that's what I did. I Googled Augusta National Golf Club. There was a phone number that came up. It was the correct address. So I gave it a call. My first video is me basically calling and say, "Hey, I was just hoping to book a tea time," like just trying to play dumb, right? So the lady that answered the phone, the gatekeeper, if you will, she basically said like, "No, you have to play with a member. The only way is to play with a member." So I tried kind of to get as much out of I could out of her. I was trying to find out, when is the course actually open? How much is a guest rate? And she basically had a scripted answer saying, "Sorry, you can only play with a member, only play with a member." So that's how we started our journey. And I knew I obviously wasn't going to book a tea time that way. As I went on a little bit further, there are other ways that you can actually play Augusta. So that's what I'm kind of trying to do now, is trying to utilize one of these ways that I can actually play the course.
well, it's funny because we talk a lot about junior golfers on the GSD Golf Podcast, and my junior golfer Simba, and they watch the Masters and they say, "Oh, one day." Every junior golfer wants to play Augusta National, wants to play at the Masters, and it's a dream. And so you're talking about living out those dreams, but obviously you need to know somebody. And I talked to a couple people about, do you know anyone at Augusta, right? And so I know you've gone down that route, running into, do you know anyone at Augusta? And talk to us a little bit about that journey, trying to find someone at Augusta.
Yeah, so there was actually I got a couple buddies that have actually played Augusta. So there's one guy that I golf with all the time here. He's like almost a mentor of mine. He played Augusta and he played it maybe 10 or 15 years ago. He lives a much different life than I do. He owns an insurance company. So he is, he's an important guy. He makes a lot of money. He's a lot of good contacts and networks. So there was some insurance company in the States that had this Augusta experience. So they flew him down on a private jet. He got to play Augusta, got to stay on the property, kind of had like the best 48 hours of his life. Well, I'm not necessarily in that position to try to play that, right? Another buddy of mine, Tyson Lamb. So Tyson Lamb is very big in the golf community. He's one of the best putter makers out there. Some people compare him to like Scotty Cameron, like the next Scotty Cameron.
Yep.
So I was talking to Tyson, and he was at the Masters just watching it. And there was a rain delay. So what I didn't realize about rain delays at the Masters is everyone has to leave the property if there's a rain delay. So this rain was so bad. Everyone was leaving the property. He was on his way out, and they kind of got stuck in an area where they weren't really sure to go. And a member came out wearing the green jacket and said, "Hey guys, just come with me. Come inside where it's warm and dry." So it ended up being my buddy Tyson, his mom, I think a buddy of his, and this member. It ended up raining for like the next 3 or 4 hours. So these guys got to stay, some building, inside some building at Augusta with this member, and they just started to talk and get to know each other. And what I think is so cool about golfers is I find golfers the easiest to relate to. I
Yeah.
think once you find someone that has a passion for golf, plays golf, there's just so many things about golf that you can talk about, and it's so easy to make friends when that's your commonality, right?
Yeah.
So Tyson told me he ended up talking with this member for like 4 hours. They became really, good friends, and they started to text each other, would stay in touch. And then that member invited Tyson to go play. So since then, I know he's played it a bunch. I'm not sure exactly how many times he has, but he basically made a really solid relationship with this member in the short amount of time that he had. So that was like just a super fluky chance that he was able to do that, right? And I asked Tyson, because Tyson, these putters that Tyson makes start at like $2,500 US
Woo!
up to like tens of thousands of dollars. So like the people buying these putters, they got some good coin, right? So I asked Tyson, I said, like, could you have like offered some type of trade? Like, hey, I make this cool stuff. And he said, you know what? These guys don't really like to be bribed. Like these are
Mm.
some of these people have so much stuff that there's not a lot of things that you can give these members to get, a reciprocal invite. So he said it really all just comes down to building a relationship. So I'm trying to now position myself in a way to make a relationship with, a member at Augusta, if that's one avenue that I can actually go then play the course.
And we talked a lot about that building of a relationship to help make it feel authentic, right? That invites, because you want to be invited. You don't want to almost be forcing your way through that door. So we get that. We talk as your journey has continued, you learn that maybe sometimes volunteers and members of the media have an opportunity to get a chance to play Augusta National. Talk to us about your experience in navigating that volunteer slash media credential. Because I mean, you have a significant following and an audience that some would say you are an active member of the golf media landscape.
Yeah, so there are a couple other ways to play Augusta that I found other than just being invited by a member. So what I believe to be the easiest way in air quotes
Air quotes.
would
Yep.
be to be hopefully get invited by a member, because there's kind of less hoops that you have to jump through, right? So all volunteers get to play Augusta from my understanding. I think anyone that volunteers at Augusta, there's one day of the year where they can go play the course multiple times, play the par 3 track. They have the course to themselves for the entire day. What I didn't realize is how hard it is to actually become a volunteer. So there are volunteers that have volunteered for the last 20 or 30 years. Like, why wouldn't you? And in the
Yeah.
golfer's mind, it's the best sporting event in the world, right? So if they get free
Absolutely.
access and they get to be part of it, I think actually their family gets tickets for the week. So I think that there's a lot of incentives for becoming a volunteer. And as I looked into becoming a volunteer, um, that list is really hard to get on. So you basically have to wait for someone to die, unfortunately, to become a volunteer. So I am not able to become a volunteer. It's also tough for me because I'm Canadian, so it's tougher for me to work, again, air quotes, work in the US. But potentially down the road, that's an opportunity to try to volunteer. I've kind of got some irons in the fire to become a volunteer. The other way that you can play is media members go into a lottery to play Augusta. I think it's the Monday after the Masters. So I know someone personally. His name's James Duffy. He's a huge guy at TSN. TSN is the Canadian ESPN affiliate.
Yep.
TSN gets the Masters coverage in Canada. So he actually went his first year of coverage. His name went in the hat, and he got drawn. So he got to play Augusta his first trip to the Masters. So I know that there's media from all over the world. If you're as big as TSN or ESPN, or maybe you're just like a small journal writer in Tokyo,
Right.
I think if you have any type of media coverage, you have the opportunity potentially to be selected as a media member to go cover it. And then if you can get drawn to play the Masters. So I submitted my own media credential request. I think media is such a vague term now that there are so many
Right. Anybody has a
content
device
creators,
or
social media.
yeah.
Exactly. So I have a following. I do anywhere from like 3 to 5 million viewers per month. So I would say that that's pretty substantial as far as like my reach. So I was hoping that I can kind of piggyback this series, as well as the influence that I have in my small little golf page to
Yeah.
try to get a media credential. So one of my followers gave me the media context, that this is who you need to email. I emailed her. She sent me back an application. I submitted the application, and now we're basically just waiting. So they said that I would be contacted regardless if yes, I got in, or no, I didn't. So fingers are crossed that I could possibly get in as a media, because I think that would just take the experience to that
It's a
next
whole nother
level to be part
level,
of the
right?
media, right?
Especially if you win, you get to not only cover the Masters, but then get to play Augusta National the Monday after. I mean, that's kind of the best of both worlds.
Totally. And as far as like actually playing the course, it's probably the hardest because it's lottery. So let's say there's
Yeah.
500 media members and there's 10 spots, your odds are whatever. Well, I guess that's actually not terrible odds, 1 in 50, but I know that there's guys have been going to the Masters for 20 years and have never been pulled to play. So I think everyone in the media brings their clubs with the hope that they can, with the hopes that they can get drawn. And I'm sure there's a lot more unhappy people than there are, excited people that actually get to play.
Everybody's got the club stashed in the rental cars that they picked up at the airport. So volunteering, media credentials, and I'm assuming the media application was not just a sign your name and what outlet. There's probably a little bit more had to go into it, right?
Absolutely. It was like, it asked, what golf have you covered in the past? So I've actually covered a handful of the Canadian Tour golf stuff here, formerly the Mackenzie Tour. Now I think they're actually merging with the Latin American Tour. So I think there's going to be a new tour next year. But I've done some media coverage for them. But I've never actually been to a PGA Tour event. So I don't have any big PGA Tour event credentials. I'm still relatively new to the golf niche, even though 4 years sounds like a lot of time. I'm still
Yeah,
networking and
sure.
starting to talk to other people of the media. So I had to, like I said, submit my website, submit my reach, and actually show like physical graphs and data of what my
Backing
monthly
up
reach
kind of
is, that type of stuff.
yeah, that makes sense. So the media credentials are in, you're waiting. You don't stop there, right? You can't just sit back and play the waiting game. I know that you've recently talked to Mike Weir. Talk to us about that experience, reaching out to a Masters champion, a PGA professional, and how did that come to fruition? Because I know you had some movement because of that conversation.
Yeah, this is crazy. So it was maybe like day 4 or 5 of me putting out this content. And sometimes I like to think backwards. So like, okay, let's say I make it to Augusta. What was the day before that look like? I'm trying to like vision in my head, like what could have happened for me to get there? So I had this epiphany that Mike Weir was standing at the gates of Augusta, and he's basically opening the gates for me to then go play with him. This was just like this crazy
Got
fantasy
like a big
dream that
arm.
I
He's
had,
going to
right?
hug you as you walk through.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike Weir being Canadian, I'm Canadian, so I thought maybe I could play the Canadian card and say, hey, help
Yeah,
another Canadian out, kind of thing, right? So I tried to contact Mike Weir. So how does a regular guy contact Mike Weir? Well, I went to his Instagram page, and on
of
his
course.
Instagram page, there's like a little email button. So I hit the email button, and it brings me to the email, and it's like, it's like bill@sportsagency.com, right? So I
Yeah,
know it's not going directly to Mike. So I'm thinking, okay, if I send this email to his agent or his management company, it's probably going to get looked at and tossed out. Mike will never hear of it, right? So I try to send Mike a DM. Sometimes I'll get lucky, my DMs will go through. Not this case. So I sent Mike 3 or 4 messages, couldn't get through. And then I saw that Mike just got married recently. He married, her name's Michelle Money. So she is actually a content creator as well. She was on The Bachelor. So she has a relatively big following. And she just started a female golf clothing brand called For All. This is some like really nice high end ladies stuff. Like it's worth checking out. So she had an email button on her Instagram as well, and her email was like michelle@michellemoney.com. So I figured that was like a direct
it's a good
email
opportunity,
to
right?
her, right? It wasn't like some agency company. So I wrote Michelle an email and I kind of put my heart and soul into it. I said, hey, this is what we've been doing in a short amount of time. Millions of golfers are getting behind this journey. Is there any opportunity that this message could reach Mike?
Yeah.
And with the hopes that maybe he can help me out, right? Super shot in the dark. And the next morning, I woke up to an email reply from Michelle. And her email basically said, this is so cool. Let's give the people what they want.
Yes.
And like right there, like my heart sunk. I'm like, oh my God, like did she actually respond to me? And like this sounds pretty promising.
So for a
Because I
minute,
know
you had to think when she said, "Let's give the people what they want." If I were in your shoes, I'm thinking, "Wait a minute, did I just get the invite?"
basically I'm thinking that Michelle is going to go to her new husband, Mike Weir, and say, hey Mike, you have to go play with this guy. Right. And so I there were so many unknowns at this point, right?
Uh-huh.
So she just said, text me. She said, I'm doing this photo shoot for my golf company in Palm Springs. I'm busy for the week. Let's text set up a date. So I texted her for like the next, week. We set up a date to have a FaceTime, and I set up my lights, my camera, my audio, all this stuff. And sure enough, I got Michelle and Mike Weir on a FaceTime. So I didn't know what to expect. My video is up on my page if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's well over a million
Yeah, man.
views for this video with Mike Weir. But basically, Mike invited me to a practice round. So he gave me 2 tickets to the Masters practice round. And he's also the President's Cup captain. So he's going to get me out to the President's Cup in Montreal this year. So super cool. I didn't know what to expect. And what Mike actually said is that even though he's a Masters champion, he's not a member of Augusta. So he's able to go play Augusta whenever he wants. He can call up his contact, say, hey, I'm in town, I want to play. But if he wants to bring a guest, he has to take a guest with a member. So he kind of said that because he's the President's Cup this year, he has so much going on with the preparation for this President's Cup that the week of Augusta, he's basically flying in, practice round, flying out whenever he's done the tournament. So, potentially if I can see Mike at the Monday round and kind of get to know him better, build a relationship with Mike, he might introduce me to someone. Who knows what that could turn into. I think that's probably my legitimate best chances is, if a former Masters champion is introducing you to people at Augusta like this, I gotta get chills thinking about the possibilities that could happen.
That's amazing. And I will say, I might have to find you. We're going to be at the Masters on Monday for the practice round. I might have to be in tow because the chances of that is amazing. And you're right. That's probably your best chance when you're there. And we're on with Brandon from New Nine Golf. He's on a quest, a journey to be I'm going to say amateur, a regular guy, golfer. I saw some of your content online. You got a pretty good swing.
I appreciate you saying that. I like to consider myself a regular golfer because I have a full-time job. I have a wife and a kid. I pay my bills. All that type of stuff. But yeah, I've been in the golf industry for like 19 years. I started as a 13-year-old selling golf retail at our local store. I kind of fell in love that way. Being around golfers, I always wanted to get better. Now I hold like a scratch handicap. I kind of waver between scratch and plus. I play a lot of amateur events. A lot of my friends are really good golfers, so I do what I can to keep up with them. But yeah, I still consider myself an average golfer, but I've had some decent rounds in the past.
I mean, I'm going to go off script here. If you get the invite, what's your projected? What do you think you're going to shoot?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. So last night or the night before, I went to bed watching so the Masters has a YouTube channel,
yeah,
and they have some highlighted guys every shot of the Masters. So there's no commentary; it's just their shots.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they had Tiger's last round up, and watching Tiger play, Tiger shot a 78, and he had some like Tiger short game, some of the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
He hit this like high soft flop shot to a short-sided pin, went right by the pin, and rolled like 60 feet. And I'm like, man, if this is Tiger Woods short game and he's shooting 78, like what are the chances I like a scratch golfer can break 90? So I think if I could break 90, shoot in the 80s, who knows the tournament conditions it would be if I just get on like on a day of the week that's not in line with the Masters, but their members play it, right? If you think of the membership of Augusta, I think the median age is probably 65, right? So there's no way these guys want to be 5 and 6 putting every time that they play. So if I play from the members tees, I think are like 6,400 yards. I should be able to shoot, sub 80. I think I could do for sure.
We got to hear all about that when it happens. And I'm going to say when it happens, because I feel like good things are happening to you along this journey. I think one of the most interesting things that you shared was definitely the engagement with people that come to you and say, hey, I contacted a member. They said you can play, but oh, by the way, there might be a cost. That was a unique post when I heard that.
Yeah, so similar to like my buddy that I said had played, my buddy who owns the insurance company, there had to be some money involved in that, right? So I have heard now through the grapevine, through my connection, that the going rate to pay to play Augusta is I think 50,000 a head is what I've kind of gathered so far. So members are not supposed to do this. Like if Augusta found out a member was taking money to, let people out there, they would definitely be kicked off. But there's like some known people that do it, and I've been told actually that there's a former Masters champion, someone that won in like the 70s or early 80s, that is like known for doing this and has done this for a long time.
That's crazy.
I won't say who, right? But
nah,
like
don't out them.
But like to pay 50 grand, like to me that just defeats the purpose. So like even if someone messaged me saying, hey, I'll pay, some Saudi prince messages me, says, hey, I like your videos, I'll pay for you to play, it would feel like cheating. Like I just don't feel like that is right to go about doing that. So yeah, and I don't think that you can just call up anyone and say, hey, I'll pay you 50 grand to go play. But the offer's been sent to me and I didn't really look into it too much, but just hearing that from multiple people I thought was interesting.
So what's next? I mean, I noticed that, and we talked a little bit offline about You have a young family, growing family, and I noticed that the last couple photos you did definitely put the young one on there and trying to maybe tear at the heartstrings. But what's next on this quest? What's next on this journey to Augusta? Because I think we're less than 100 days until. I mean, you're not trying to play the Masters, but still, the excitement leading up to it is what's going to capitalize on this story.
100%. So yeah, where I live right now, I'm in Calgary, Alberta. It currently is minus 43 outside, and that's the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit. So think of how cold that is. Like it's
Yeah,
so tough to make golf content when it's like this. I'm constantly talking to people all the time, trying to see what I can do to get to Augusta. So sometimes it takes me a couple days to come up with a video idea, come up with a context, and back and forth, right? But I'm still trying to get there. Coming up very soon, 2 weeks from now is the PGA show in Orlando. So this is like the biggest golf gathering in the world. Happens every year. So I actually got in as media. So I have media credentials to go to the Masters, so I can, or it's not to Masters, to the PGA show, so I can talk to some really cool people.
yeah,
The show coming up, there could even be people from Augusta or people from the PGA Tour, or I have relationships with a lot of like club manufacturers and that type of stuff. So I'm really just hoping to build my network, talk to people, and naturally, like I don't want to be known as the guy that's always asking for stuff. I think I could build a relationship that could pay off 4 or 5 years down the road. And likewise,
yeah.
right? Like there's a lot of people that want eyes on their product, and I can kind of facilitate that with the golf content that I create. So for the near future, I'm planning to, go to the PGA show. I'll be making content there, trying to network. Who knows what can come out of that? I was talking to a golf glasses company, and they wanted to feature some of their products on my channel. And one of their main people that they sponsor is Annika Sorenstam. So I posted a video saying that potentially I can get in this meeting. I meet with the sunglass company. They introduce me to Annika Sorenstam. I kind of tell her what I'm trying to do, and who knows
Yeah,
what that could turn into. Yeah, I live kind of by the quote. You miss the shots that you don't take, right?
100%,
100, I think it was
100%.
Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yep.
So I'm really just trying to take shots, and we'll see what comes of that. After the PGA show, I'm supposed to go to the Waste Management Open. So that'll be actually my first PGA Tour event that I've ever been to. And I got invited by a club manufacturer. So hopefully that, who knows who I can meet down there and kind of tie some strings if you're in, come to these like special areas. I don't know.
Meet and
It's so
greets and
foreign to
yeah,
me.
sponsor areas and things of that nature.
Yeah, so I think networking is the key. I think the message is out there, what I'm trying to do. People message me all the time, people that know people that have played Augusta or maybe have played Augusta themselves. And to kind of come full circle, you were saying I put my daughter in some of my videos. So my little girl, she actually turns 1 on Monday. So this is
Happy
pretty
birthday
exciting.
to the little one.
Yeah, so her name is Palmer after Arnold Palmer. So she's my little golf princess.
I think what you're doing is really cool, and I think good things are going to happen. This journey doesn't end at the Masters. I'm assuming you're going to continue on this quest. I think it's a great story. Um, Anyone that's watching at home, anyone that's listening, they have a contact, they have a lead, they have something they think, hey, I already reached out to a couple of my contacts. I know a couple of guys that do some podcasts. One has this podcast it's called Sound Off. It's focused on the James Madison University community. They got good relations. Yeah, this guy also does a ESPN show. So there's opportunity out there, right? That maybe we can leverage that. But when I talk to some people about this, they're like, if I knew somebody, I would try to play. But if someone at home knows somebody and they're not trying to play, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so you message me on Instagram is probably the best way. You can send me a DM. Also, my email is linked in there. So you can definitely contact me on there. It's funny. I was talking to someone today in my DMs, and he said, my girlfriend used to babysit for a member of Augusta. So it's like these connections are like just so crazy. And the fact that people are actually willing to have his girlfriend reach out to the family that she babysat for to say, hey, there's this content creator that's trying to play Augusta, and like mind blowing. So
Mind
for
blowing.
this community to be so helpful, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate the messages. I appreciate you guys asking stuff. Even yourself, AT. Like, thanks for asking your buddies to try to help me out, because it's going to take a village to get this average golfer to
Oh,
Augusta.
it's crazy. And it's interesting because, it's funny when I hear you say that. Nobody ever drops an Augusta member by name. It's always, I know an Augusta member. You never hear the name. So it's like one of those hidden secrets out there. But, not only your quest to play Augusta, you've launched a clothing brand, New Nine Golf, clothing brand, apparel company. Talk to us about that, because I think the naming convention behind that is something that I think as our audience focused on parents and junior golfers is something they can get behind. So talk to us about that.
Totally. So new nine, the phrase new nine is something that I would always say at the halfway point after my 9 holes. So let's say I'm a scratch golfer. I should be shooting even par. Let's say I shot like a 42 on the front nine. I'm like, man, I had a couple double bogeys. I lost a ball. I had a terrible three putt. I didn't take my time. Let's forget about all of that. Clean slate. Let's forget about it. Let's learn from those mistakes, but let's
Fresh
just
start.
clean the
Yeah.
slate. So new nine was me turning the page. I just went to the new Word document. It's blank, right? And the more that I thought about that on the golf course, I'm like, man, this relates so much to life
Yeah.
that I've been through some crummy relationships. I've been through some not great jobs. I've had bad things happen to me, but I'm still here, right? And
Still
there's
here.
still things that I enjoy. So new nine is learning from those lessons that make you a better person and really just focus on what's ahead. So that's what new nine is to me.
That's so
And
awesome. And as we think about our viewers and we think about those junior golfers out there, and it's funny because I had this conversation with Simba last night. It was like that front nine is over with. You have to play the back nine. You have to play that new nine, no matter what happened, good, bad, or indifferent. So I love it. I love the concept. I love the thought process behind it. And if someone wants to get some merch from New Nine, where do they go?
yeah, so you can go to new9golf.com. And it's funny, like I got into content creation because I was trying to build a clothing company first. I thought, wouldn't it be so cool to, make hoodies and make cool stuff? And when I started doing that, it was like the height of COVID. So supply chain shut down, manufacturing
Yeah.
shut down, shipping was crazy. So that's why I kind of pivoted and thought, man, maybe I can do like social media or create content to build more of a community. So New Nine Golf is a community. So when you're
Yeah.
wearing a hat, a t-shirt, a hoodie, you're part of that New Nine community that forgets about the bad and just focuses on the good.
Well, we wish you all the best. I think good things seem to be happening for you, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I know it's interesting when we did a little promo on our platforms about talking with you. Within minutes, we had at least 2 or 3 people post and say, "I've seen that guy's journey. I want to see him make it to Augusta." So I think you got a lot of positivity and a lot of positive people behind you. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, New Nine Golf. Thank you for joining us on the GSD Golf Podcast.
Hey man, thanks for sharing my journey. It's guys like you that are willing to help me, share it to more people. So hopefully it's a win-win for the both of us. Congrats on your journey. I know it's not easy. Keep it going and prove your kids wrong that you can blow up in the golf space. So I really like what you're doing and thanks for having me on, man. It was a lot of fun.
You got it. Have a great weekend.